So today on Black Geek Energy, we are honored to welcome an exceptional voice in speculative fiction. He is an award-winning author. He has penned the entire Nameless Republic trilogy, including some of The Storm and Warrior of the Wind, which weaves an epic narrative inspired by West African histories and cultures. His recent work also includes the science fiction novella Lost Ark Dreaming, which delves into themes of climate change and social stratification in a dystopian future Nigeria. Expanding his repertoire, he has adapted Ta-Nehisi Coates' acclaimed comic book series into a novel, which is Marvel Black Panther, the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, which brings a fresh perspective to the iconic, there it goes, to the iconic cosmic adventure. He currently resides in Ontario, Canada, but he's not there right now. We just found out. Where he shares his expertise as a professor of creative writing at the University of Ottawa. Ooh. Please join us in welcoming Suyi Okungbowa. Oh, sorry, Okungbowa to the show. Yay!
Thank you very
I
much.
butchered your name.
No, that's okay. I mean, you got it right already, so.
Yes, yes, yes. You're gonna learn. I'm not good with names, even though I get it right one time. That doesn't mean that I'm
It's a
gonna
work in
get it right
progress.
every time.
That's okay. Yeah.
But let's go ahead and let's start this show the way we start every show. How was your previous week?
Uh, my previous week. So the past week has been as I just told you, I'm in North Wales actually. So I've been
Mm-hmm.
on a writing retreat. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Tell us
Um,
more. What is a writing retreat?
this is a long one. So I have I have the final book of my trilogy coming out, so,
Mhm.
or getting ready, and I wanted to, the university term has just ended, and I wanted to get some time away to actually double down on just finishing everything I needed to do. So I have this
Mm.
group in the UK, group of writers who when I started writing around 2017, there were some of like, I did my first few workshops of my first novel with them. So they've sort of been
Mhm.
there their whole career. And they usually do these getaways to North Wales for a
Mhm.
week, for everybody to come together and just, do whatever they need to do to write, to revise, whatever. So I decided, well, the term was over, the summer was starting. They were going in May, and I was like, "Can I come with y'all?" And and
Nice.
and pretty much they made a place for me, and I went up to this library in North Wales, where it's a residential library where you could live in the library. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, it has like a accommodation as well as like uh this library attached to it, so you could actually work there and stay
Okay.
over. Yeah, and then that's what my past week has been, pretty much waking up, working, walking the grounds. It's because it's like the library is set on this large estate, so
Mhm.
it's a small town. So just sort of like basking in a bit of quietude and being away from that hustle and bustle of everyday Ottawa. So that's pretty much what my it's been really nice. If I have to admit it's been really nice for me
Okay.
able to be away and be among books and other writers and yeah,
Right.
that's yeah.
So, are you like a lifelong lover of books?
I would say so. Yeah,
Okay.
I grew up in a house with so I grew up in Nigeria, which is where I was born, um, and born and raised, and my parents are both professors, so
Mm.
our house is like filled with books from day one, and I've always sort of had them there. So I would even say for maybe for a while I took that for granted, because
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
yeah, I took it for granted as like a thing that was just there, but now I know how formative that was because it sort of put me, and not just me, my siblings too all read as a
Mm.
result. And we're all just people, who grew up reading because it was just a thing. Our house was filled with books of different kinds,
Hmm.
religious texts, scientific texts, um, mythology, romance, crime, like all the genres, all the
Hmm.
works. A lot of the works I first read about, African history um, or like literary works from African authors. I read all of them at home first before I even like found them, met them in school or something. So in that way,
Nice.
I was sort of raised to be a lifelong reader, lover of books,
Hmm.
storyteller, in a way. And I don't think I would. I don't think it's a path I can really ever stray from because it has
Right.
just been so formative.
Yeah. So do you have your own library at your house now? Like,
Yeah. I wish. I want to. I want to, but I have a 3-year-old who makes sure that none of the books ever stay in place. So, so I have a series of shelves, but it's like they all start from the third tier because like the first two
mm,
he can get to them, and I'm like, okay, no. So they
yeah.
usually, yeah. But I'm building it,
Yeah.
I'm building that. I have my bookshelves in my office as well.
Hmm.
But I also have this habit of giving away my books actually.
Mm.
I give
Mm.
my books away a lot, yeah. I'm not very much a hoarder. When I read and I find a book interesting, it actually even makes me want to give it away more because I'm like,
Hmm.
someone else would love this too, and then I'll give it out.
Yeah.
And but that's also partially because I also, when I was raised, I also was given a lot of books by
Hmm.
people, and so it's sort of my way of paying it forward. So I give my students books a lot.
Oh.
Okay, very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
cool.
yeah, yeah.
So
You're
do you
building a
rem
library.
so do you remember the first book that got you thinking, "Oh, that was enjoyable. I would like to do that
Mm,
again."
that's a good one. What book was that? That's a good one. I think that might have been. So when I was growing up, we read a lot of like um, books that came from um, so there were sort of, I guess, remaindered books from British libraries or British bookstores that would then get shipped across the continent, and you could buy them like secondhand from like the equivalent of flea markets, right?
Hmm.
And so we would go and just stand, and you could get books from mostly big name authors that were in like the crime mystery type genres. So you could get Stephen King, but there were a lot of these books from like British mysteries um, that were very much like Sherlock Holmes would be, but very many others of them that were not written by Arthur Conan Doyle or like authors like that. So I
Hmm.
remember reading, I think when I was really young, when I didn't even understand what a closed door mystery was, I remember reading a closed door mystery from one of those stacks and being like, I was really fascinated by how the structure of it, right? The opening question of like you find a murder, but there's a murder, but you don't know who did it. And
Hmm.
yeah, so like the classic who done it, but like with a closed door. It was the first time I was encountering it, and I was like, what just happened? Like
Yeah.
how did I just how was this just solved? Because the structure is like folded in on itself and focusing only in that room
Hmm.
and then the detective comes in and starts picking at things, finding suspects, the whole shebang. But then I wasn't even familiar with like the concept of mystery as a genre or TV,
Hmm.
because the TV mystery TV wasn't as much a thing, at least for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that was the first time I remember reading this as probably as a 9-year-old or 8-year-old even, being like,
Mm.
what is this? What just happened? How was the crime even solved? So I remember saying, okay, I will need to read that again to like really understand what just
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, I remember just sort of being carried in the story, getting to the end and being shutting the book and be like, what did I just read? Type
Yeah.
situation. So I would say that might be the earliest I can remember. But of course, I've had that feeling multiple times since then.
Right.
Yeah, I
Nice.
remember mine was in the third grade Miss Powell's class because before I had done like the book it things because here you could if you read a certain amount of books you could go get a free pizza from Pizza Hut. So I would read, but I
Really?
wouldn't really be absorbing what I would just be reading to get through it. But
Hmm.
it was in Miss Powell's third grade class. We all had to get this book called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I remember one time I was like, well, what happens next? And I turned the page and I just kept reading all throughout the night. So then
Hmm.
that really started me like, oh, that was fun and enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I actually went into the library at school and I was like, what else is in here? And I started reading all that was in the library. Then I went to the city library and I started reading
Mm.
all those books. Like I would have like a bag of novels that I could read in like 2 weeks. And it was bad.
Yeah.
And then I started buying books. And yeah, it's I would never forget it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that started me on my way. But like I don't really read books that are just words anymore.
Yeah.
Even
Hmm.
Yeah.
though I read all the time, so I'm reading comics and manga and manhwa.
Yeah.
I don't really read books
You don't
that
read a lot of novels.
not really. Not really.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, mine was a bit of the same. Like I started reading like a lot younger. For me, it was the Harry Potter books, and I would
Mm.
always I would like finish my work early in class so I could pull out my big book and just read in the class where everybody's finishing theirs. Yeah, it used to get me in trouble, but I wasn't putting it down.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
in trouble a lot for reading too. A
Yeah.
lot.
Definitely.
Which is crazy. Like I'm in school.
I
Part of this is
know.
like to read.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, like my books used to get confiscated as well. Like,
What do they have against us reading? So why do they not?
yeah,
So you're in Wales right now. I gotta know because
yeah.
I'm a big uh horror junkie. Are you in a
Okay.
haunted library?
Listen, I can tell I can tell you that I'm not sitting in my room right now because I went somewhere to get good like some quiet. But my
Mhm.
my my room actually overlooks a library. Sorry,
Mm.
overlooks a graveyard. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. So next door to this library, there's a church and a graveyard that spans from like the side of the church back.
Hmm.
So there's like a path that you can walk through the graveyard, which I have walked through. It doesn't feel haunted though.
Yeah.
In my opinion, actually, where I'm staying, so the place I'm staying is called Gladstone's Library. It's owned by a man called Sir William Gladstone, and he's owned this property and the estate it's on for about since the 1800s. There.
Mm.
Now I think it's part of a charity, but the thing is, this um, massive mansion with many rooms and many hallways and in the library and feels more haunted to me than the graveyard actually.
Yeah.
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 It,
Because
it
that's
feels
where the
more
killing
haunted
takes
to
place.
me. I have walked in this, there have been times, I'm writing late into the night. Lose track of time and I'm like, oh, I need a drink of water or something or a Coke, and I go downstairs, and it's this massive hallway that runs through the length of the house, and
Mm.
and it's like 11:30 p.m. and there's no one because everyone's either asleep or there's pretty much no one in the house. And I remember this one moment being like, if there were ever a time to write a haunted house story, you're in the right place and time. But yeah, it feels more haunted, in this place. The there's so many things, the grounds and all of that. But when
Mhm.
I walked through the graveyard, it actually felt quite peaceful.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
not
Yeah.
very haunted at all, not to me
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of people say that graveyards can be peaceful, but I've never taken a stroll through a
Through what?
graveyard.
Yeah, I think it can be. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
they're
can.
usually pretty peaceful.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
have a
guys.
different
Uh,
question for you. So, we talked about the first book you read that, like, sort of like spurred you into reading. Like, what was the first thing you wrote? Maybe not the first book you published or something like
Mm.
that, but look, the first thing you wrote that was like, I want to keep writing for the rest of my life.
For what? I want to keep writing. Yes. For the rest of my life, I don't know. I don't even know the answer to that part of the question yet, even. But yes, the thing that I think, I mean, I have always been interested in some to some degree, I guess, based on that upbringing I just
Hmm.
described. But I think so. I was raised in a Catholic church. So I think the first thing that made me write was reimaginings that I did of biblical stories that were told. Um,
hmm.
Wow.
yeah, to me, or like in church or um, and I was like quite active when I was growing up because I
Hmm.
was like I was in the choir, I was in various societies. But so a lot of these stories were like sort of like embedded in my
Hmm.
consciousness. But I was always thinking of the like the alternate version of it, or like what if you know. So my what
What if
if
David lost to
Ex yeah,
Goliath?
exactly, right? So like the what if ness that sort of gave rise, or at least bloomed into this speculative writing
Hmm.
that I do now, may have started there, right? In the sense of, but what if this wasn't how it worked? Or what if
Yeah.
I decided to tell the story of this thing, but from someone else's perspective,
Hmm.
with a different, so I remember one of them specifically was this story of like um, so like biblical Jesus on a donkey, like riding into a town, and you have these palm fronds being like thrown at his feet so he can ride on a donkey into the town.
Hmm.
Um, and then this backstory of that donkey is that someone actually owned it, and it was tied somewhere, and the disciples went to this person and said, "Listen, we have this guy. He's kind of important. He needs to ride on a donkey into," and they managed to just convince him to give them his donkey, like these random
Yeah.
guys, give these random guys his donkey for
Hmm.
someone they had described as a messiah to ride into the town. So I remember that story because I rewrote it. I was like, that seems too straightforward. So let's remix that, right? Let's remix
Yeah.
that. Let's figure out a way to throw in some conflict to actually make it quite a journey for them to get that donkey.
Right.
Um, and that was the first one I wrote. And then after that, I was like, wait, I could do more of this stuff.
Mm.
And I remember like giving it to this guy who was like the youth drama coordinator type
Hmm.
person. And so I gave it to him because I was like, he's the one who's already always directing like the stage plays. So maybe he'll have something. And he read it and he was like, this is really good. And then he started to give me like feedback. I don't
Hmm.
can't remember now if it was really helpful or not, but just that interaction of I did a thing, I gave it to
Hmm.
someone, they read it, they thought it was good, so good in fact that they were like, you can actually improve on this, make it even better.
Mm.
Here are all these pieces of feedback, and I think that interaction was just like, okay, I could do this more, I guess, and
Yeah.
I started doing more of that, but then of course, like I sort of moved past that. And started doing even more things. And long story short, here I am today.
That's really cool. You started out writing Bible fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly. It was 100%. That's it. Bible fan fiction is pretty much where I started. Yeah,
Crazy. Yeah. I would love to read some of that if you have any old stories laying around. You want to send
absolutely
them our
not.
way.
What if Jesus gave in to the snake?
Yeah, Bible fan fiction. I think it's a good place to start. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So now's the time of the show where
Oh,
we uh ask our guests if they can put our fans and our listeners onto something in
okay.
media. This could be anything from books, comics, TV, movies, podcasts, any form of media that you recently watched. And we're going to do it too.
Hmm.
And I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by our good friends at Movie Pass.
Mm.
Demarcus, can you please? Oh, thank you. So Marcus, can you please tell them about Movie Pass, please?
Of course, I'm always happy to talk about Movie Pass. Suyi, have you heard about Movie Pass?
No, no
Oh,
idea
okay.
what.
Well, if you like movies, Movie Pass is the way to go. I don't know about where you're at, where you are in Wales or Nigeria, but like movies in here in America are getting expensive. You're spending 15, $20 a movie ticket.
Mm,
But with Movie Pass, their whole thing is making movies more affordable, more accessible, so that anyone, the regular Joe Schmoes like us, can just go to the movies whenever they want. So for a monthly subscription, you're able to get a number of credits that you can use to watch movies all through the month.
uh,
How you spend your credits, whether you're going to movies, see movies opening night, or whether you're waiting for like that Tuesday matinee, you can
mm,
stretch your credits into 3 or 4 movies per month, or even a movie every day, depending on the
mhm,
tier you buy and everything. So MoviePass is amazing. I've been using it for a while, even before they were sponsored the podcast. I was paying for it out of my own pocket. And you use it one time and it pays for itself. I
mm.
love MoviePass, and I can't say enough about it. I just saw Thunderbolts using MoviePass, me and my girlfriend, not too long ago. So, yeah, check it out if you haven't. Mhm.
Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, I'll definitely think you consider it once I get back because yeah, I want to see more movies.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But how was Thunderbolts, DeMarcus?
Thunderbolts was good. It's so a lot of people what I've heard is like it is the mental health Avengers.
Fair
And
enough.
that's kind of true. I feel like they could have went deeper into like the mental health aspect of it, but I really enjoyed it. It feels like a
Okay.
new beginning for Marvel movies in that like from phase one up until when they beat Thanos was like really good, and then like phase 4 and 5 was like there's a
Mm.
lot of shaky stuff here. This feels like a new beginning.
Yeah.
They're refreshing everything, and it feels
Yeah.
good. It feels like a good place to like jump in, and if you
Yeah.
especially like love the Marvel stuff, a good place to
Yeah.
restart watching that.
It was also one of those that I have seen it, and it was one of
Yeah,
those that didn't. There's no superpowers in this traditional sense, so it
yeah.
felt a bit more, like it felt more like the initial like first Avengers, where things were a
Yes.
bit more gritty and like on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I really loved about it too, is
Yeah.
because I think where they've been going wrong with a lot of these other movies is like they're trying to make it too big. They're trying to
Too
like
big.
like, oh, we're saving the universe from this thing or
Yeah.
something like that. And it's like, like it's time to start over. Like we saved the universe from Thanos. Give us some
Yeah.
new characters, start them on the ground, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what they did here.
That's what
This is like,
happened.
hey,
Yeah.
this one guy has problems, and we're just trying to solve his problems.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so Sui, do you have anything in media that you want to put our listeners on to?
Do I have to just do one thing?
Oh no,
No,
you
as many as you like.
yeah.
Really? Okay. 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 So I'm gonna come at you with a boatload of stuff. Um, I watch a lot of TV. I watch some movies. I read a lot of books, clearly. I will start by saying the thing, though, that I would always put people on, and I will probably be doing for the rest of the year, is the movie that I've just seen this week here in Wales.
Hmm.
Actually, I went to nearby cinema to see it in IMAX. Is Sinners. Ryan Reynolds,
Yay.
Mm.
Sinners. I'll tell you how much I loved it. The cinema gave me a poster, okay? That poster is in my luggage now. I'm gonna put it on my wall once I get back home.
Yeah.
Starring Michael B. Jordan, Wunmi
Hmm.
Saku. Like it's one of those I don't like. It's not the kind of thing I can easily just describe.
Hmm.
But what I will say is this: I walked away thinking two things. One, that film was a love letter to many genres. That is,
Hmm.
you could tell that Coogler loves storytelling, loves film,
Hmm.
and he was putting his love for all these things into um, into that film. And then on
Hmm.
the second hand is Coogler loves, he loves himself. He loves blackness. He loves the black
Yeah.
experience in the US. And he was also putting this down as a love letter to, that experience, that experience of blackness in the US, but also the shared experiences that are attached to blackness in the US, especially in the
Hmm.
time that the story is set, which is 1931
Hmm.
Mississippi, right? So um, that like the genre you could if anyone asks what is Sinners about or like what kind of movie it is, it's hard to say. Is it a horror movie? Yes. Is it a musical? Also yes. Is
Yes.
it is it historical? Yes. Is it a crime film? Yes. Is it a
Yes.
vampire film? Yes. Is it like there's so much you could pack into it. there are times when I'm in a part of a movie, I'm like, this reminds me of X thing because it is X thing. It's
Mhm.
Hmm.
just using that aspect for that duration of the film, and then it's often flipping to something else. So it was like 2 hours, but I remember when it ended, I was like, wait, did we just spend 2 hours plus here?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel like it because it was always doing something new each time, which with the material it was working with. So I would say if, I don't know, in the last 5 years, you were thinking of like a film that sort of was an original thing that came out and wasn't a remake, and it sort of
Hmm.
defined something about the movie making and movie going experience, Sinners.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Sinners does that.
Miles Catton is a find. Like
The
he,
music is phenomenal. The acting phenomenal. The singing, oh my days.
yeah, his voice is just so, it's like
I,
Yeah.
amazing.
for such a young up and coming actor too, like I was
I was
floored.
blown away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
Sinners. Sinners does
Okay.
Amazing movie. Yeah.
that. TV wise, I've just finished seeing the Star Wars TV show Andor.
Ooh.
I think it's the most non-Star Wars. It's like, I mean, people call it Star Wars for adults. It's probably true.
Yeah.
In that it is the gritty underground version of what Star Wars is or has done all this time. It is,
Hmm. Hmm.
in my opinion, the one that the show that manages to insist on taking a hard look on like all the other stuff, the stuff that's easily waved away in terms of like, oh, rebellion or what. Like
Hmm.
this is what rebellion actually looks like on the ground in the daily, and this is what the empire that's being rebelled against looks like on the ground. The bureaucracy of empire, the monotony, the
Hmm.
mundaneness of evil, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's just 2 seasons, and then I think 10 episodes
Mm-hmm.
each or something, like
Mm-hmm.
um 12 episodes each. But um Andor is the other thing I've just finished seeing, and
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely is the kind of thing that, somebody who loves storytelling should see at some point. Um so
I saw
yeah.
Andor. I feel like it's too
You
smart
have
for
thought.
me. I do. I feel like it's too smart for me. I want some forcedness in there in my Star
That
Wars as
Mm.
that is
well.
fair. That is fair.
And not
That is
necessarily a
fair.
Skywalker. I just want some forceness in there as well, and I want them to move things with their mind and manipulate people. And it was just too smart for me. And like I remember the first scene, that whole prison scene. Oh my God, that was
Yeah.
amazing. And there was
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
amazing setting like that
Yeah.
prison
Yeah.
setting. And this
Hmm.
Yeah.
guy is going through a lot. It is
Yeah.
like multiple years
Yeah.
that he's
Yeah.
going through stuff. So like
Yeah.
I'm guessing that like in the movie terms, like
You're
because the
right.
movie is still going on, like other things
Yeah.
is happening while
Yeah.
Andor is happening. I'm like, what is going
Yeah.
on? I'm lost. I'm just
Hmm.
Yeah.
lost.
It's fair. It's fair. It's definitely quite like it puts a lot on the viewer. I will agree. Like it
Hmm.
asks a lot of the viewer. And then of course like you need to be familiar with like parts of the canon, which I wasn't, or I'm not really. I'm not really big on like Star Wars as a like I know some of it, but it's one of the few I think that you, even when they do stuff, you don't kind of need to know to
Hmm.
sort of get into it. But yes, I agree with you completely, Jado. It definitely asks a lot of the viewer. Yeah.
No. I saw season. I haven't watched season 2 of Andor yet. I saw season 1 and I loved it. Like very
Okay.
much like you see, like it was. It's the other side of Star Wars. It's not the grandiose like the Empire
Yeah.
is evil and they're taking over the
Yeah.
galaxy. It's like yo, this is like the
Yeah.
Empire is just like a bunch of people who are
Yeah.
low-key your neighbors that just like went
Yeah.
to work at this company and the
Yeah.
company is evil, you know.
Yeah. That's it.
And
Yeah.
it's
It's
like,
like,
what does that look like day to day?
yeah, exactly. They go to work, they dress up, they have briefcases, they report, they do meetings, they have reports.
Hmm.
That's what the empire looks like. Right? It's not just the Star Troopers, right? Or sorry,
Hmm.
the yeah, it's not like these guys in
Stormtroopers.
all the, yeah, stormtroopers, that's the word.
Hmm.
Um, because it's very easy to think of that, right? You see all these boots on the ground, but it's like these people in suits in an office being like, "Where's your report? Where's your
Yeah.
report? I should have it on my desk before end of day." That's what it looks like.
Hmm.
That's what evil can look like. I really like that
Yeah.
idea of it, and it really brought home, especially like with the way the US is functions now. Like a lot of
Hmm.
stuff is just really like signatures, pushing papers, printing documents,
Hmm.
but these things then have impacts on the ground, that look like the big flashy things that we're used to seeing. So I really like seeing that behind the curtain, right? Who are the people
Yeah.
making these choices? What's driving them? So yeah, I really like Andor for that reason. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, now I gotta watch it. Like, it was already in my queue. It's on my list to watch. Now I gotta
Great,
start. I gotta start it this week.
great.
So,
I'll
Demar,
stop at I'll stop at two actually.
Okay, I was gonna say you can keep going.
Demarcus, what about you? Do you have something you want to put the listeners on to?
There's a new season of Love, Death, and Robots that just started. And I've been watching that. I watched the first 2.5 episodes.
Mm.
The
Two
first
and a
one,
half. It's
hey,
not
hey, I bet
even long enough for you to pause in the middle, Demarcus. What are you doing
Jared, I
two and a
don't,
half
Jared,
for?
this is my put you on, so let me put them on.
I'm just asking the questions that the listeners have right now because you said
The
two
third
and a
episode is like
half.
15 minutes, and then I had to go. Like I had to go to my listen's graduation. Anyway,
Okay. Okay.
um, the first episode was like it's just like an ACDC concert, not ACDC, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I was like,
Okay.
but they could have kept it going, but it was well done. I
Yeah, it
was like,
was
but that's
very
not
well
what that's not
done.
not what I wanted, not what I'm here to see. That's not why I come to love Death and Robots. But
Mm,
the second one was good, and then the third one, I started watching it, and it's about like the spider person or something like that. But I
mm,
always love Death and Robots because it makes you reimagine the world and like reimagine the stories, and it gives you these stories that are so like out there and weird and
mm.
like sort of in like a Black Mirror way, but
Yeah.
like more like
Yeah.
even more fantastical,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like them as a visual form because they all come from short stories. I'm sure, I don't know if you know this, but and some of the authors that write them I know. So one of the authors that writes for them, his name is Rich
Hmm.
Larson. He lives
Hmm.
in Canada actually. And I see him every now and then in Ottawa. He visits Ottawa a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's written books, but his specialty, a lot of his specialty is like writing these short stories that are very compact, but
Hmm.
also lend themselves to like visual telling.
Hmm.
And a lot of the stories they select for Love, Death, Robots are in that frame. And I like that alternate form of storytelling because like we're
Hmm.
usually used to like TV, long form storytelling, movies. I
Hmm.
really like
Hmm.
the idea of like, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
tell me an impactful, interesting, something that will pull me in and keep me there for 15 minutes,
Right.
It's its own skill, and I really like when it lands, when it works. So I think Love, Death,
Yeah.
Robots kind of like has that down. They know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Often and
That-
often, yeah.
that- that's the big thing I love too. Is like because while I love like long form media, I love a good movie. I love a good long video game, TV show, book. But like I think part of the reason I love comic books is because, like, in 30 pages, I get like a full story.
Hmm.
And so Love That, like you said, Love That the Robots does that same thing. In 15 minutes, I get like the rising, the
Yeah,
conflict, the resolution, and it's so impactful in such a short
it
amount
is.
of time.
Yeah,
I can watch 3 episodes and I'm like, oh, it's only been like 30 minutes.
yeah,
Two and a
yeah,
half.
yeah. It's
Two
like
and a
it's like a
half
it's like a
episodes.
can of Red Bull. You just chug it. It's like 15
Right.
minutes. 15 minutes. You get that real big pump, and then it's gone.
But yeah, I
Absolutely.
actually like the Red Hot Chili Peppers one because the animation it was so amazing because there's a lot going on. There
Hmm.
was, not only was there a lot going on, there was like a lot of they were also on strings. So it was fun to see
Hmm.
how the strings were moving too. And then when they were
Uh,
like impacted, they were kind of like explode and then come back. And I actually
uh,
watched
Hmm.
that one twice. That's the only
okay,
one I
Oh.
watched twice. So I
okay.
really liked that show.
Hmm.
But another Netflix show that I will put you on to is recently, since we're talking about librarians and readers and English professors, oh, you have a lot in
Oh, okay,
common. This
okay,
story is about somebody who does all three, who's married and who has a little child. Oh, he's three. Like you have a lot in common with him,
okay.
but
Mhm.
he's also
I
a
want to hear
serial
about this
killer.
now.
Now he's
Oh,
also a
what?
serial killer.
So you said, wait, wait.
Wait, what?
Yes, he's also a
I
serial
knew you were
killer.
selling me as something when you were like, you have a lot in common. I was like, where is this going? Okay, I see it now.
Yes, I'm talking about you. The last
Oh,
season of you.
Mm,
It ended very. I think that it ended very well. They
mm,
finished it very well. But that the final season happened. And then in this season they talked on a lot of the red pill influencer
mm,
people. And they brought them into it, and they made the connections between Joe, who has been a quote unquote champion of women, and how he was also being very misogynist while he was doing that.
mm,
yeah,
So
yeah.
so yes, I I did finish the last season of You, and if you saw the first three seasons, then go ahead and watch the last season.
Okay,
And because it ends very well. Yeah.
okay,
mm.
English
okay.
professor, a reader, a father. Goodness.
I know. It's almost like we should, it's something we should all aspire to, not aspire to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
DeMarcus, do we have an activity for today?
We absolutely have an activity. And for those who are joining us for the first time, the way activities work here on Black Geek Energy is DeMarcus comes up with the games or
Okay,
activity. He comes up with the questions, the answers. He decides the winners and the losers.
God.
Um, in today's activity, we're going to play Guess Who Fantasy Edition. You know, we have an amazing fantasy writer. And
oh,
so I am going to give you all descriptions of characters from different fantasy IPs. And I'm using the popular ones, so it's, fairly easy. And all I need you all to do is tell me who I am describing. Just name the character. And I'm going to be super forgiving, so you don't have to say the name exactly correct. As long as you say the name close enough to where I can understand who you're
mm,
trying to get at, you got the point.
okay.
How's that
Okay.
sound? Understand? Questions?
No.
All right.
The
Sounds
first,
sensible.
I'm just waiting to say Gandalf as one of yours
Mm,
because I know how much you love the Lord of the Rings.
Well, Jared, let's hope Gandalf is one of the answers to this question.
Do I get
I
to answer
need
these as well? Just to clarify,
say it again.
do I get to answer these as well?
Oh,
Oh.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna it's a competition between you and Jared. So one of you is gonna
Okay,
win.
let's go. Let's go.
Um, excuse me. So what I need is both of you to choose a number between 1 and 10.
Hmm. Nine,
um,
maybe?
I'll go first.
Okay,
7.
okay.
Okay, 7 and 9, you said?
Yeah,
Sweet.
nine's
All
fine.
right.
Yeah.
The number was 10 today, so Sweet, you're going first.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Um,
Oh,
okay. What do you want me to do next? Do you want me to choose another number? Or...
oh no, 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 no. I'm going to read
You
you.
just
I'm
ask
going to
me a
have read you the
question
numbers.
first. Okay,
Question number
great.
one. Yep.
Okay, excellent.
All right. Number one, the brooding, honorable bastard of Winterfell rises to lead the Night Watch and discovers his royal lineage, known for his bravery and sense of duty. He's key to the battle against the White Walkers. Who is this person?
Jon Snow.
Absolutely, that's right. Jon Snow. Easy peasy, right? See, not
Yeah.
hard at all. Jared always says these games are hard, but I always disagree.
I don't ever like know the characters. I just be watching it for vibes.
Mm.
Fair.
For the vibes. All right, Jared, this one should be easy. Should be easy as well.
Okay.
An exiled princess turned dragon riding conqueror champions freedom, but her pursuit of power and justice becomes increasingly complex and dangerous. Who is this person?
Uh, it's the Targaryen, the
Hmm.
Daenerys,
That's
right?
correct. Daenerys. That is absolutely right. See, we're starting out easy.
So,
I don't think these questions get much harder than this, so y'all are doing great.
all right. So that's all the Game of Thrones I know. I don't know.
Great. Well, good thing it's Suyi's turn, and we're not doing any more Game of Thrones stuff.
Okay, good, good,
Okay.
good.
Great
I
stuff.
mean, I won't guarantee that. There may be another Game of Thrones question later on. We'll see.
We'll
Uh,
see.
Here we go. Question number three. A girl with telekinetic powers who escapes from a secret lab and becomes group's most powerful asset in battling the horrors of the Upside Down, especially the Demogorgon and Vecna.
That's 11.
That's absolutely 11 from Stranger Things. Great
Yeah,
job. Great job. Easy peasy. You actually written some Stranger Things stuff, right?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a gimme. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's easy.
Yeah.
All
So we
right.
see who he's favored in on this, as
All right,
usual.
Jared. This one's for you. The nerdy, lovable member of the Hawkins gang. He is smart, resourceful, and often the first to piece together supernatural threats. Plus, he's a D&D fanatic and fan favorite. Who is this person?
Hawkins? Is this another Stranger Things type of?
It is a person from Stranger Things, yes.
Okay, well, I don't know anybody else in Stranger Things, so I'm just gonna say, is it the black one? Because he,
I need a name, Jared. I need because I'm the black one. Suyi's the black one. You're the black one. Who are we talking about?
there's only one black one in Stranger Things. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. It's that guy. He has a mustache now. They say he's gonna be Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh, that'd be nice.
uh,
You want to read it again, Demarcus? Just to
Sure,
clarify.
sure, sure. I'll read it once more here. Uh, sorry. Getting my questions mixed up. All right, here we go. The nerdy, lovable member of the Hawkins gang. He
Mm,
is smart, resourceful, and often the first to piece together supernatural threats. Plus, he's a D&D fanatic and fan favorite.
mm.
Sounds like all of them, low-key, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely
Jared,
don't
no,
know.
no guess.
So,
Mm-mm.
All right, Suyi, chance to
I'm
steal.
I'm gonna say if it's not the
yeah.
black one, then I'm gonna say
No.
Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
Wow, wow.
I sat here the whole time trying to remember his name because I do know who you're talking about. His
Hmm.
name is let's see. Um, it starts with a W, right?
Doesn't it
Uh,
start with a W? Come
it does
on.
not. It does not.
No,
Okay,
you
sorry.
tell me. You tell
Okay, so
me.
we have Mike, you have Will. Okay, so it's not doesn't start with W. You're right. You have Will,
Hmm.
you have Lucas, and then you have the fourth guy. It's that guy, but I can't remember his name.
You gave me every other name except the name
Yeah,
I need.
except the guy. Um, uh, how long do we have to think about this?
I'm going to give you guys 10 more seconds, and then I need an
Okay,
answer.
10 seconds. Uh, his name escapes me. Um, Hawkins, Will, Lucas, Mike,
Hmm.
11,
Hmm.
and he's one.
All right, time's
Can't
up.
remember his name, but yeah,
The
yeah,
the
he's
answer
the one
is
anyway.
the answer is Dustin Henderson from
Dustin. Oh
Stranger.
yeah, Dustin. That's his name. Yeah, I can't
Right.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like he was the least popular one. Like when I was
yeah,
watching
he's the
Stranger Things,
nerdy one. He's the nerdy one, really. Yeah,
he got on my nerves so much.
yeah,
He was my least favorite.
yeah. Fair enough.
All right, see, it's your turn.
Okay.
All right. So, um, marked by lightning-shaped scar, he is brave, loyal, and destined to defeat Voldemort with the help of his friends and magical artifacts.
Harry Potter.
Absolutely, Harry Potter. Easy peasy. All right,
It was supposed to
Jared.
be the other boy though.
Ooh,
He
The
was
Neville.
boy,
supposed to be
the other
It was
boy
supposed to be.
that
It was supposed to be Neville.
yeah, it was supposed to be
Hmm.
Neville. Neville should have. I prefer
Well,
Neville over
take that
Harry.
up with JK.
I would never.
And that's a good one.
All right, next one here for you, Jared. An elven prince and master archer. He is agile, perceptive, and forms a legendary friendship with the dwarf Gimli. He's iconic for his grace and combat skills. Who is this person?
The only person I know in Lord of the Rings is Gollum, Gandalf, Sauron. If it's not one of
Oh.
those three, I don't know who it is.
There are so many other characters here, and like,
Yeah.
Okay, and I said the only person that
and
I
you
know.
you watched Lord of the Rings for the podcast
No,
before.
I
What do
didn't.
you?
No, I didn't. You made me watch that horrible movie,
It
those
it
horrible three movies, The
it
Hobbit.
it wasn't me.
It
It was one of our
was you.
it was one of our old co-hosts. That's
Well,
whose idea it was. Don't put it on me. You always do
Oh.
this.
I'm always going to put it on you because the
All right.
co-host is not here and I didn't do it. The Hobbit was horrible. They keep going
Really?
into people's houses uninvited, and
Fair enough.
I just did not like that.
Fair
So
enough.
I'm just gonna say it's. Are you talking about? Let me be for it. Aragon. Aragorn.
That's
That's
a
a good guess.
guess.
That's a
That's a
good
good
guess. Yeah,
guess.
good
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Aragorn is human.
Okay. Okay.
Suyi, do you have a guess? A chance to steal a point?
Yeah, it's Legolas.
It is Legolas. It is
Wow.
Legolas. Elvis should have tipped you off. That should have been
Yeah, yeah.
the one. All right, Suyi, back to you. Um, a mutated monster hunter with white hair and a dry wit. He battles beasts and wrestles with the moral gray areas in a world full of magic, politics, and danger.
Hmm. The Witcher?
What is his name?
Henry Cavill.
That's a good one.
Well,
Now,
because
what's his name?
they're all witches. There's a lot of
Yeah,
different witches.
yeah, that's right. Oh my days, what's his name? The Witcher. Wow. I can't remember. I can't believe I've forgotten his name.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I can't
You
remember
could
his name.
say it. You can
Oh my
say it
God.
rhymes with, and I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like if I
Oh,
hadn't
I
asked you, go ahead.
yeah. No, sorry. You're gonna say sorry. Please
I
go
feel
ahead.
like if I hadn't asked you, we were just like having a conversation, it would be at the top of your head. You would have already been able to
You're
say
right. You're
it.
right. You're right. Nah, I've
All
had
right,
it definitely, but yeah,
Jared.
it's yeah. Sorry.
Jared, a chance to steal.
I actually do know this one, even though
Okay.
I
What is it?
only watched one season of the show. But I did
Hmm.
play
Uh,
The Witcher 3, not to completion.
Hmm.
okay.
But his name is Geralt,
That
and
is
his
correct.
Geralt. That's it. Yeah.
horse's name is Roach.
Roach. That I was yeah, Roach, that's right. I have played the
Perfect.
game.
Oh,
But yeah, Geralt of Rivia, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Gerald to
Yeah.
Rivian. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Jared, we are back to you. We have gone through 7 questions, 8 questions,
Okay.
Oh.
um, 7 or 8. I mean, I'll go back through in a second. So I think this question is number 8. All right. And Jared, this question is for you. A cold and tyrannical sorceress who casts Narnia into eternal winter. She represents evil and temptation, often manipulating others with charm and fear. Who is this person?
After I just said,
After you
Right, right.
just said this was these were the books that turned you into a reader.
okay, Aslan was the lion.
Hmm.
um, um, uh, I know it was an ice queen or the ice witch. I don't
Mm,
know her name.
mm.
I
You're
haven't
so
read these things
close.
since the third grade.
You're so
Ice
close.
Queen, Ice.
You're
Look,
so
all
close.
I know is that
What color is she?
oh, white,
She is the
the White Queen,
no, Jared.
the
I'll give
white.
you the point anyway. You said all the words even though
Yeah.
they weren't in order.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was
It was
it?
it was the White
The
Witch.
White Witch, yeah.
Uh,
Hmm. And for reference, her name was Jadis, which I didn't know. I didn't know she had a
Mm.
name. I thought she was just called the White Witch.
Yeah,
No, no,
same.
no,
I've
no.
never read the book, but that's I know those two things. The lion laying
Right.
Aslan and Wild West.
I've seen all the movies.
Okay.
All right, Suyi, we're down to the wire here, and
Oh.
I'll give you guys an update on the score. Jared, you have three. Suyi, you have four. So this
Mm.
you could go either way. You could cinch the win here, or you can give Jared a chance to tie it up and make me have to find another
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Suyi, a powerful wizard and a member of the Istari, he guides heroes like Frodo and Bilbo with his deep wisdom and magical might. He plays a central role in the fight against Sauron.
Ah. Hmm.
Who is this person?
Who is this person? That's a good question.
I
Oh,
can
you
give you a
don't
hint.
know him?
It's
I mean, I do. The question is, do I want to answer or do I let Jared answer?
Do you want to be a good sport and let the game be
Yeah.
tied and make my job harder?
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember this. Have you back on the show.
But no, also because like when you said, when Jared was like, these are the things I know about like Lord of the Rings, and then when
Hmm, hmm.
of course I get this question and Jared does.
See how
Hey,
he does me? See how he
it's
does
it's
Yeah,
me?
it's
yeah,
just how the cookie crumbles.
No,
yeah.
it's not.
Anyway, I will play the game fair and square and answer. It's
Hmm.
Gandalf.
Absolutely, it is Gandalf. All right, and we're down to the last question here. All right, Jared, are you ready?
Okay.
All right. A brilliant witch and one of Harry's closest allies, she is
Hmm.
known for her intelligence, mastery of spells, and fierce loyalty. She often saved the day through her quick thinking. Who is this person?
Hermione Granger.
Absolutely, Hermione Granger. All right, that's all the questions. The ending score is 5-4. Uh, Suyi, you are our winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
First time on the
Al-
show, first win.
Although I will
Somehow,
agree with Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
somehow, every time we have a guest, I lose. Somehow, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but every time we have a guest, I lose.
Well, Jerry, I think what it is that you know a lot of things, but you don't know the specifics. And a
Mm.
lot of time, it's the specifics where you lose points. Like you don't know folks' names, you don't know
Mm.
what the show is called, but you've seen it and you can describe it, and you can just say, "Oh, it's the black one," and it's like, well, it wasn't the black one, but
Yeah. Although he did say he does watch for the vibes, which makes, you know.
yeah,
So
which makes also
maybe
makes the
more
story
vibes
enjoyable.
question. More vibes
More
question.
vibes
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Nice,
you
nice.
asked something.
Oh, no. Well, I was going to just ask, how does it feel? How does it feel to get your first win on Black Geek Energy?
I mean, that was actually a very nice game. I liked it. Thank you very much for that, actually, because
Hmm,
I don't guess so we don't get asked to do things like this a lot. Just,
hmm.
sometimes I get the same questions all the time. I always remember, like I will remember this probably.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, because we tend to get, authors tend to get the same questions or same similar types of
Mm,
questions. And I've spoken about my work so much in
hmm.
different ways that I sort of have an angle for everything. And I always remember like the interviews or, podcasts or anything where they often do something different. I remember one specifically, and this was a funny one because it was for a con or so that was sort of like for young readers,
Hmm.
at a library or something. It was a place I didn't expect, but I remember I was asked to do a this or that type thing. This was like years back, and
Yeah.
the question I was asked was Kendrick or Drake.
Mm.
And it was the strangest question, but also the one I will always remember, of course, for various reasons in the
Yeah.
last year, but also because it was just not the kind of question I would ever get.
Mm.
And so this too is another one of those. Like I will always remember it because like nobody ever says, what's the name of, Geralt of Rivia or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I try to do. I try to like, you know, I try to for the our games to be related to wherever conversations we're having in the
Yeah,
episode, but also be like fun and informative. So, if
yeah.
someone's listening, they can learn something, and we can just have a good time.
They are fun and informative. There were some of these things I didn't actually know, like the White Witch.
Mhm.
Actually, I didn't know.
Mhm.
Just like what you said. So yeah, yeah, good
Absolutely.
stuff. Thank you.
Great. All
Okay.
right. Sure.
Okay. So yeah, I want to jump into your latest book, the retelling kind of
Yeah,
the Marvel's Wakandan intergalactic saga that Ta-Nehisi Coates first put into our laps to read. Now,
yeah.
this saga was it was kind of confusing for me a little bit.
That's fair. That's
It was
fair.
Mhm.
kind of confusing for me a little bit when Ta-Nehisi Coates read it. And I don't know if it was the fact that I had to wait a month for it to happen or
Mm,
things were happening in it. But can you just kind of set the scene of, you know, how is there an
correct.
intergalactic empire of Wakanda?
Yeah. So the I've heard this described many different ways. Some people would say it's Wakanda Star Wars. Some people will say it's an alternate universe of Wakanda. But what it is actually is that um, the lore, at least, or the canon, is that Chala, right? So in the actual Wakanda on Earth, the same one we've seen in the comics prior and
Mhm.
the films and etc.
Excuse
Um, so Chala, who is at the time the reigning Black Panther, sort of puts together this team, right? Like a
me.
team that is sent into this stars to sort of investigate a source of vibranium that is out
Hmm.
there in space. Because the vibranium that's in Wakanda is actually a space rock, or at least
Mhm.
is
Hmm.
understood to be a space rock. So the idea is, you know, um, there's this they're sent to investigate this source of vibranium, right? The source of that rock, just figure out if there's more vibranium out there. Um, and so Chala sends his team. This team goes out there, but something happens. They encounter a wormhole, and they plunge through that wormhole, and they show up on some other side of the galaxy, completely far away from this. They lose their way pretty much, and
Hmm.
so they're sort of stuck out there. Now, but these people are Wakandans. They've been sort of built, they've grown up in this Wakandan ethos of like, the most technologically advanced, the best, the fiercest, the toughest. And so what they do is say, well, we're sort of stuck out here. We'll just establish a colony, right? We'll establish a Wakandan colony in space. And they start out that way. But then, of course, what typically happens is when you have a lot of power, you're encountering a lot of people who aren't really on the same power spectrum, is a lot of them, some of them, or at least get sort of corrupted by that power along the way.
Hmm.
And then they take that power and then start to actually take the very ethos of Wakanda, the ethos of like striving to always be, the furthest technologically, the strongest, the most invested in building something. But then they twist those ends to like more sort of more bellicose ethic that becomes very colonial in its
Hmm.
yeah, that becomes very colonial in its uh implementation. And so they start to actually conquer many of these planets they come across, right? So after establishing their colony, they start to expand the colony, conquer
Hmm.
more, they conquer more and more and more and more, and then many years later, right? You have an intergalactic empire that starts from that core colony.
Yeah.
um, so, of course, the people who started, they're long gone, but this empire has sort of bloomed, has become its own thing, and of course, it does what empires do, which is, it's very extractive. It takes a lot. So they have found the vibranium, and then they just focus on using that vibranium to even conquer more places, find more vibranium,
Hmm.
etc., etc. And that becomes the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. Now, this story starts when a man shows up in this intergalactic empire, crashes into it. And the people who have been, sort of conquered by this empire have been telling themselves tales and say, listen, back in ancient Wakanda, which is how they think of the Wakanda on Earth, there used to be a guy. His name was Chala, and he used to be the conqueror, like the person who fights for free peoples. He's like
Hmm.
someone who's a savior, a messiah, and there's this law going around like, a Chala will come for us in this intergalactic empire to free us from the hold of this empire. And so when this
Wow.
man crashes, you know, rumors start going around. We hear there's a guy, he has all these powers and he can do all these things. Is he our Chala? Um, but then it becomes the question of, is he our Chala, or is he actually Chala from
Mhm.
ancient Wakanda? That's
Oh,
that's the question. Is he actually Chala from ancient Wakanda that actually has left ancient Wakanda and showed up here?
right.
Um, and no one can really answer the question, and so everyone instead is fighting to get this guy on their side. So the rebellion
Oh.
manages to bring him in from where he's imprisoned after crashing,
Hmm.
uh, and then try to like figure out, is he doesn't have any memories. The Empire takes
Hmm.
memories, so they're trying to figure out, is he's trying to figure out, am I?
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody's trying to figure out who he is. He doesn't have his connection to Bast like that Chala would have as the avatar
Hmm.
of Bast. So there's a lot of pieces missing, and the rest of the story is really trying to figure out who he is, piece these things together, answer the question: is he our savior? Um, or can he even save us, even if he is Chala or a Chala? Can he save us from this empire?
Hmm.
Um, that's really what the intergalactic empire of Wakanda is about. It's answering that question of, will we be liberated by a Chala, possibly the Chala?
Mm. That
Yeah.
sounds really good. Is this a is
Yeah,
this is this a closed door mystery? Like there's a lot of questions in there, and you
yeah,
were talking
yeah,
about that earlier. It's a closed
yeah.
door.
A closed
Nice.
door
I'm learning.
mystery across 5 galaxies. Yeah,
Nice. Do
yeah.
they interact with the Wakanda on Earth a lot, or does that still exist? Is there some
So
kind of?
there's a suggestion that it does, and I try. This is me trying not to spoil it too
Oh
much,
yeah,
but
yeah. Please don't spoil it because I'm gonna read
yeah,
it.
there's a suggestion that it does, but the wormhole that brings that through which they can get to that other side, because the galaxy is like way over, it's like thousands of light
Right.
years away. So the wormhole that can take them there was an anomaly. It's not actually a thing that exists. So it was an anomaly.
Mm.
No one can find a way back there. So if there was anyone who,
Ah.
who could, it would be the same guy who crash landed in this interior. If he actually is Chala, then he would be the
Hmm.
same person who would find it back. But he also doesn't remember anything. He's also lost his memory, so
Man,
everyone is basically screwed. So
the
Yeah.
blind leading the blind.
yeah, yeah. And then of
Man.
course there's a question of, if a savior or messiah, a Chala, is supposed to be noble, is supposed to be, this guy, not like that at all. He's very brusque, he's very brash. So they're like,
Mm.
how can he be Chala if he's like this? He doesn't even listen to anybody. He doesn't take instructions, nothing. He's always doing his own thing, ruining
Hmm.
everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember when I first read this book, and at the end or the middle, when I first started seeing what was actually happening,
Right.
this was one of the moments where I started looking at Wakanda as not the best place on earth. Like,
It
like,
will make you think that, yeah.
yeah, like I'm thinking that I would rather, because, like, you know, and then when at the end of the original
Yeah.
comic, he does come
Right.
back and he does um you know, come back into some hardships in
Yeah.
Wakanda, some political unrest. But then I started seeing that the political unrest started a long time ago, like even
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
T'Challa and Storm were
Yeah.
married. And it just kind of escalated from there. And I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wakanda has this ruler who doesn't really want to be a ruler as much as he wants to be a worldwide superhero. And then I'm
Yeah.
Mm.
like, And then I'm like, but and the people are asking for this ruler, and now they're warring with each other. And then I'm
Right.
looking at Latveria, like, and they fine. They
Yeah.
have no worries in Latveria. They just
Yeah.
go about their business, hell doom, and that's all they do it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, of course, I would rather stay in Wakanda, but I don't think I would want to stay in the main city of Wakanda or in the offshoot
Yeah.
cities.
Yeah.
Cause like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, like I'm very much in agreement with you. Like I hadn't read the full run
Hmm.
when I came to, at least when I was invited to this project. But of course, one of the first things they do with this project is they give you the full run and say, okay, if you're gonna, here you go. And I remember when I started reading it, the first thing I was very confused, like you, Jared. I was like, what is this? Like, what do you mean? Nakia. Like, what do you mean? Like, Nakia
Hmm.
isn't like that. She doesn't sound like that. But then after a while, I was like, oh, wait, hold on. This is some other Wakanda. It's somewhere
Hmm.
else. And then it took me a while, but I realized that and this is very much now that I understand a lot of what Ta-Nehisi does as a person in the world and like as a writer, I understand why he wrote it exactly the way he did, which is that it wants you to, first of all, come in with the understanding of what you think Wakanda is, and
Hmm.
start. But then you get to a point you're like, how can Wakanda be like this? It's not possible. Then you realize that what he's actually trying to say is that Wakanda is not perfect at all. It has never been. It's not
Hmm.
that bastion of utopia that we think of it as. Rather, Wakanda is held together by like tape.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's like it's held together by the goodwill of a few people who are trying so hard to make it remain that way, but it's very fragile. And
Hmm.
then the Intergalactic Empire shows us what happens when you don't have that, tape holding it together, and how it can easily
Oh.
become something else.
Hmm.
The Wakanda we know can easily, this quickly, become, the worst possible thing for five galaxies. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what happens because the ethic under which um, it's running can be good, but that
Hmm.
ethic requires power beneath it to actually work, and power can go in any direction. And the minute it
Hmm.
moves in the direction, it's hard to stop, especially if it builds on itself. And the
Hmm.
power of Wakanda is not just one thing, right? They have the heart-shaped herb, they have vibranium, they have all these things that together come together to actually give it this power. So as long as these things are still there, right, in the Intergalactic Empire, it's vibranium, and they keep finding more vibranium. So how is the power going to go away? It just keeps
Hmm.
accumulating, and that thing just worsens. So just like you were saying, Jared, about like even the one on Earth, right? It's like you have this leader, and he's always like off the places. He's not really paying
Hmm.
attention at home,
Hmm.
and there are all these people being like, "Listen, if this guy won't rule, I'll just take the throne and do it."
Yeah.
Yep.
And that in a way, like I don't, like you're reading a comic, clearly this person is a villain, but you're also thinking, he right, you know
Yeah.
why
He's
don't
not wrong.
why don't you sit in that chair, like that chair is yours, why don't where are you always off to, not actually being where people need you,
Right.
um
Your people need you, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
your people need you, but you're like all over in Washington DC doing
Exactly.
whatever whatever it is you're doing, so I was thinking of that a lot.
Hmm.
Thinking of, I know, like T'Challa has, he has a sister, he has Aurora Monroe, so he has all these people around him. But at the same time, I'm
Hmm.
like, boy, go back and like meet your people where they're at. Even if
Hmm.
these people who are coming to the table to say, I want to rule instead of Chala, well, find out what they want that they're not being given, and like, meet them in the, like rule, actually rule.
Yes.
Hmm. Like,
Actually
do the
rule, don't
work.
be, yeah.
Hmm.
So
Do your job.
that was what I thought. I think that Ta-Nehisi was trying to point at, in that when you don't have that, when you and the Wakanda on Earth was still holding, but that's only just holding because maybe you have these structures in place. But all of this is tape. If you have someone who's not paying enough attention, it could easily become this other thing that
Hmm.
is the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, which doesn't have good structure or good rulers or like people who are actually there to invest in
Hmm.
other people.
Hmm.
Instead,
Hmm.
what they have is just the like bare-faced, we need to be better, stronger, faster, more technologically advanced, and that can easily lead to fascism, or it can easily lead
Hmm.
to rule. Because even if those are supposedly good things, if you don't have the structures to keep them from becoming extractive and destructive, then you have the intergalactic empire. And that's pretty much
Mm,
what I think he was trying to say. Like, it's not just having these, desires for so-called good things. It's the
Hmm.
fact that once you hold power, you have to be really responsible with it and constantly being responsible with it and for other people. Otherwise, you become this empire, that's destructive and extractive. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I really liked that. He sort of made me think of that too, even while I was
hmm
writing. I was like, oh, that's what this really is. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in like the behind the scenes for things like this, like what's happening that we, the audience who read the book, don't see. How much of this was written or like already planned when you were like invited onto the project, and then how much was to sort of take it in your own direction and apply your own creative juices to it.
oh, like nothing apart from what Ta-Nehisi has already done was
Okay.
written. So this book, this novel, is a mix of. So I think this novel covers, I think, the first 12 or 13 issues. So it's not even the whole run,
Hmm.
because the whole run would take forever. But
Yeah.
um, so the first thing we decided as a team, I mean, first of all, they wanted to know if I wanted to do the work,
Yeah.
but also if I was interested. I'm always interested in the Black Panther property specifically because it has a like special place for me.
Right.
um, and and also because it was Ta-Nehisi who had already done like the groundwork. I felt like I was being, I was working on something that had been ushered by like safe hands, if this makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm going in somewhere with, there's an artist I respect, there's a writer I respect, the property is one I'm interested in. So we first decided what the scope was to be, and we said, okay, we're going to cover this area specifically.
Hmm.
Then the other thing that, and this is what usually happens with tie-ins, is you will then be required to bridge the gaps. As with comics, as
Mm.
between issues, you will have stuff that happens off page. So then you'll be forced, well, not forced, hopefully not forced. You'll be required to sort of then make what actually happens off stage now happen on stage.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes there's nothing to show you what has happened off stage. You then have to figure something out. So what happened was they didn't give me anything. They gave me the issues, the scope, and said,
Hmm.
write us back with what you think happened, with what you think bridges these gaps.
Yeah.
Um, and that was what I did. That was the first, sort of thing. I first outlined what Ta-Nehisi had done and said, okay, this is what he has done.
Hmm.
This is what I am going to do in addition to this. But and then I was like, and then this is what it would look like in novel form.
hmm
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
transposing forms is also I mean, if you read comics a lot, you know that the comics is very different. As a medium, I like to call it it's a static visual. I mean, that's what it is. It's a static visual medium, but in the
Hmm.
sense that it actually is very visual in my opinion. It's as visual as TV or film.
Hmm.
It's just
Hmm.
that rather than you have moving images, you have static ones. So things like sound, or things that you would usually put in like a TV script, you wouldn't put those in a comic script. But the comic scripts are very, very descriptive. I have written some comics, so
Hmm.
I know like the kind of work that goes into the visual. Um, but then what you're doing in literature is doing the opposite. You're extracting from the visual. You're not even extracting from the initial script that has been written.
Hmm.
You're looking at the visual and saying, what is Mbako thinking in that panel, that one panel? What is he thinking?
Yeah.
What is driving the choice he's going to make in the next panel? That's what you have to do in literature and sort of spread that out before you move to the next panel. So one panel can last like 3 pages, in a book because you want to stretch that moment. You can do that with literature. Um, and so I had to pick moments really. Okay, in this issue, issue 3 or whatever, this is the pivotal moment. This is the moment we're going to stay with, and then everything else is going to build on top of toward that moment. But you have to read the
Mm.
comic and sort of figure out which page, which panel is really doing that work.
Yeah.
Um, which sort of requires an understanding of both mediums. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's how I did it, right? I said, okay, these I think are the this is the core of these issues, and this is what I think we can use between them to give, dramatic heft or increase tension or build, particularly specifically to expand character, because you don't have as much space to do that in the comic,
Mm-hmm.
but in literature you can expand character, you can talk about backstory, you can add all that stuff. So a lot of that stuff is what I did, and
Hmm.
then added to what was already there. And then, few notes here and there from the Marvel team, from the publishers team, and then they were like, okay, we
Okay.
trust,
So
we
that's two
trust you.
Mm.
different
Go
teams. You
ahead.
you were getting feedback from Marvel and getting feedback from the publisher. Like, here's what we want this thing to look like. Okay, very
That's
cool.
correct.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. The Marvel team, there's a specific IP team for Marvel properties.
Hmm.
And if you're gonna write in that, they'll bring, like, they'll tell you the stuff that needs to be in canon and stuff that you
Hmm.
can play with outside of canon, or like you can bring in from outside of canon.
Hmm.
And so I was working with that team, and then the publishers team is sort of like thinking more on like the narrative level. Uh, what is this character robust enough?
Hmm.
Is the narrative having enough tension? So they're thinking
Hmm.
more on the editorial level. Yeah, so you'll be getting that kind of feedback. This will say, oh, like, here wouldn't do that because blah 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 happened in like issue 10, blah blah blah. So you can't do that. Do this instead. Something like that is the kind of
Okay.
notes you get from Marvel. While my editor would be like, I feel like, you know, Njidaka would want this here. So maybe increase, spread this moment to 2 more pages or something like
Mm.
that. Yeah. So
Mm.
that's how it works. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, nice.
Yes, teach, professor, teach. Your classes must be fun. Now, let's go back to the empire. There's a lot of moral ambiguity here. Like, I think that T'Challa starts off as a slave
Yes.
to somebody, which is very, I'm an
Yeah.
American, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hold up now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are a lot of other moral things that, made me raise my eye at the empire. But how did you navigate or expand on these moral complexities
Mm,
within this alternative society?
yeah. I mean, that was definitely a thing I was always weighing. One of the things I remember telling myself was, this Chala guy sucks.
Yeah.
He sucks, like, a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how? So I guess the question I really asked myself in the beginning is like, how do I make this guy a hero?
Yeah.
But also, why?
Yeah.
Like,
Why
why?
do
Why?
I?
Yeah, why do I have to make this guy? Um, and the thing is, the story sort of starts out that way. Like, in the first 10 chapters, he's literally picking fights everywhere. He's fighting with everybody.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Mhm. Mhm.
why do they even want him? And I remember having, like, why do they even want him, right? In the rebellion, like, he's just,
Mhm.
you know. But the thing is, there's a lot of stuff going on. He has a lot of skills, which he doesn't even know how he has them or why he has them, but he just knows that he has them, and he, like, moves in a certain way in the world. And they're also raising the question, well, okay, we have an asset, this guy. Sure, he doesn't listen, but, we need someone like this. And I started thinking a lot about why people would believe in this guy at all. And
Mhm.
that's when we
Mhm.
started coming up with the questions of, like, well, it's less that they believe in this man standing in front of them, but more that they believe in the lore surrounding this guy, or like they
Mm.
believe in something bigger than the man, and so they're willing to give the man a lot of rope so he can become that thing, right?
Yeah.
So he can grow into that thing, and so that's what we started building this belief system around it. And here's the thing: you find out, as you probably know, belief systems actually allow people to play with a lot of moral ambiguity because they can then
Mhm.
say that's okay, because there's a longer game, or there's a bigger thing that we believe in, and it's okay if he does this one thing that sucks, kind of situation. Um, and after a while, even Chala starts to be like, okay, maybe this is a bit much from me. Maybe I should take it. Um, but yeah, and it's not just him too. There's more ambiguity on even like the sides of their allies and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I really, I was really asking that question always, like, what makes these people believe in the things that they do? And
Hmm.
sometimes the things, the reasons they believe are not great, and they have to learn. I think the most important thing for me was like they have to learn at some point that the basis of their beliefs are not are not good things. Maybe they need to revise them, and I think that's what I
Hmm.
tried to do for most of them in the end. Them revising their beliefs in the end. So yeah, that's that's how I tackled it.
Yeah, and you're definitely correct. At the beginning of the comic book, I was like, this guy's like Cora. He's
Yeah,
always, he's
that
just
is true.
annoying. He's just
He's annoying.
annoying and he's not doing the right thing and he's destroying the spirit world. But yeah, I didn't like
Destroying the
him either.
spirit
He
world.
was like a little loser. And I don't really remember the comic book point for point. But didn't he always like lose everything? Or I know he was winning because that's why the rebellion got him. But he was always picking fights with people and they didn't turn
Yeah,
out right or something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't too happy with him.
Nice.
But for the readers who are unfamiliar with the comic book,
Hmm.
um, and the original story,
Hmm.
how are you ensuring that the novel stands on its own
Hmm.
while also honoring the source material?
Yeah, that was a tough one as well. We tried to do like a framing for the opening. So the novel sort of opens with a prologue that says with Bast, right? The goddess Bast sort of speaking, saying, "This tale you're about to read is blah blah blah."
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then which the comic doesn't have, but we decided to use that to sort of lay the ground to say, well, if you know about Black Panther, you know about Wakanda, then
Hmm.
Bass is here saying, well, this is not quite that. This is sort of
Mm.
something beyond that. And so you
Hmm.
sort of know. And then the book also opens without saying who that guy is, or that,
Hmm.
he's some guy that people are going to think at some point is possibly Chala or the Chala. Um, Rather, it's just like some guy. It just really opens as some guy. But then when he starts to do stuff, people start thinking, wait, is he? And then that's when the reader is brought into, oh, there's a lore surrounding this guy. The other
Hmm.
confusing thing, and I think this is probably what you're referencing, Jared, is the new Intergalactic Empire then has all these people name themselves after people from ancient Wakanda.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So you're getting Mbaku, Njadaka, Nakia, but they're not the people from ancient Wakanda or the Wakanda Prime. Rather,
Hmm.
Hmm.
they're just completely different people.
Yeah.
So you're like, wait, what is happening? But they're sort of like they're names they bestow upon themselves as like,
Yeah.
okay,
Hmm.
in honor of the place we came from. So
Hmm.
there, and this is pointing back to your point, Jared, about Ta-Nehisi referencing like enslavement in, of course, drawing parallels from America, but also like the reclamation of the name, because what the empire does for a lot of people it conquers is erase their memories so they have no connection.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so the one thing they have a connection to, all of them eventually, is like this ancient Wakanda that they can't quite remember, but they have oral tales passed down, stuff that the empire can't quite take. And
Right.
so they keep linking themselves back to it over and over by saying, well, I take on the name Nakia now because I want to be connected to
Mm.
something that I
Okay.
don't quite remember, right? Yeah, I'm
Okay.
cut off in a way from a lineage, but I want to be connected to it. I want to reclaim
Hmm.
my connection to it, and so they have these names as a result. Um, and so that gets explained at some point down the line, much earlier in the book than it is in the comics. But
Hmm.
that's one way I sort of said this is why you're hearing all these names, but they don't overlap with like the ones in ancient Wakanda, because these people are trying to remain connected to Wakanda Prime via this distance, over this distance, these light years. Um,
Yeah.
and the names in a way are their hope that they will be saved at some point and then
Oh.
reinstated. Yeah. So
Okay. See, I didn't get that in the
Mhm.
comic book.
yeah,
I
yeah,
did not get that in
Yeah.
the comic
yeah.
book.
The comics really don't, like it's a very short space, so I get it. But I could see that And that was something I developed in the novel.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Oh,
another
cool.
thing that is in a comic book, like when you're reading the comic book, of course, you're seeing the pictures too, and the Black Panther looks like T'Challa Prime.
That's
But
right.
like, I
Hmm.
really think that in your book, it may be better because it's just a blank slate
Claimed,
man.
yeah, yeah,
So I think that
yeah.
would be
Hmm.
really, really better.
Yeah.
Um,
For the first, I think, 5 chapters, he doesn't even have a name.
oh,
He's first called the Dreamer because the chapter opens with him dreaming, and then after that, he's called the Rebel because he rebels a lot,
mhm.
like that, for a while until someone actually bestows the name T'Challa on him because they're like,
Oh.
so the captain of the rebellion says you might be the T'Challa we've been waiting for, so I'm gonna give you a name of T'Challa, and then he starts
Mm.
answering that name throughout the rest of the book. But
Yeah.
then, of course, in the reader's mind, they're like, "Is this a mistake?" You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Very cool.
okay. That makes a lot of sense. So
I got another
personally,
question for you. So what and I guess it's more meta, not so much about the story, but like what do you find since you've written comics and novels, like what do you find specifically
Mm,
with this story? Like what has been the best part or the differences, some of the best differences between the comic and the story you've written, the novel? Like what have you been like, oh, like I love the novel because it does this, or
mm,
I love the comic because it does that, or
yeah,
vice versa?
yeah, definitely. What I like about the comic is this: you're not writing the final thing.
Mm,
You're writing the thing that you're going to suggest to somebody to make the
hmm.
final. So actually, your script is a series of suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, here, do this thing. Is really what it's
Mhm.
like, a series of instructions. And I say suggestions because the artist will still render it however they wish,
Right.
or according to their style, or anything. So you never actually know what you're gonna get. Which means when you're thinking about a story with a comic, the process is much longer. First, I have to think about the story. Then I have to think about how to represent it in, I don't know, 10 panels.
Hmm.
It's like 10 panels. That's all you get. Go. And then you have to think, okay, or 7 pages or 10 pages, something like that. And then a lot of the choices you make on the comic is something like, how many panels can I have in this page versus,
Mm,
do I want this to be a big blow up, like a centerpiece?
hmm. Hmm.
What part of the story would lend itself to a centerpiece, for instance?
Hmm.
One of the comics I just wrote is a retelling of a British comic called My Tech the Mighty. It's about
mm,
Hmm.
it's a sort of like a giant robot gorilla, that's called My Tech. Um, so like King Kong but robot. um,
Okay.
and then in the issue I was writing, it's fighting off this giant like mechanical python type thing. And I was thinking, so I remember emailing the editor. I was like, where are the spreads in the pages? I think I was to write 10 or something. I was like, where is the spread? Because I was thinking of a part where I needed to have a big top to bottom image of like the gorilla grabbing the mechanical python and then like
Hmm.
tossing each other just right at the middle of the page where you like have the spread. So I was
Hmm.
asking him
Hmm.
where's the spread so I could write in a way that would place that. So that's what you're really thinking a lot. Like you're thinking about narrative structure, also
Ah,
like page structure. How many panels per page?
right.
Is this a big shot? Is this a small shot? Is this an inset? Is this off page or on page dialogue? Stuff
Mm.
like that. And then, as I said, all of this is just instructions. Then someone has to interpret that and put it on the page. But with literature, you think something, you just write that. It's like,
mm.
it's a
A more
different
direct
process.
line to what you're
Exactly.
thinking. Okay.
Yeah. But also because of that direct line, you then have to be very like, you have to it's very iterative. You write the thing and say, okay, that's the thing I've written down. Now, what do I actually want to say? Then
Mm.
rewrite that thing, you edit it, you cut it until you get to the heart of the thing that you're trying to say. It's okay, that's what I want to be on the page actually. Um, and then, there are other things. Literature allows you to play with time, go back and forth without moving through time in a way that you can't really do with comics, where you have to keep the reader in a space. If you move too much, they
Hmm.
get confused.
Yeah.
Um, Things like that. You can really play with time in literature. You can play with, internal thoughts without it. You can move in and out of internal thoughts and dialogue without it being too clumsy. But
Hmm.
you have to think a lot in comics, do I want this to be an internal thought? Do I want them to speak it out loud? Do I want it to
Right.
just be body language? And if it's body language, how do you show body language statically, not
Yeah.
movement, no movement, stuff like that.
Okay.
But I love both forms. I think they ask different things of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, man, you're really deep into like the answers you're giving, just like that you've done both of these things a lot. You put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
How many times do you think you've like rewritten pieces of this of the Black Panther novel? Like you say like the way you described it is super interesting. Like you write what you want, and then you say, what do I actually want to say? And
One
then you
say,
write
yeah,
that, and then you're like, what's what I'm trying to say? So how many
yeah.
times are you like rewriting things?
I mean, as you can tell, like as a professor of creative writing, this is literally what I'm always trying to get people to do to write and then rewrite. I find that um, the process of typing
Hmm.
um, makes it quicker for you to just like put down the word that has come to your head.
Hmm.
So I find often that when I'm just like writing, blah, 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 I think of it as like I'm just getting the thing that I want to say down or the thing
Hmm.
that the story down, and then after that I then come back and say, okay, what is the actual thing that needs to be on the page? What needs
Mm.
there? What can I skip? What is what's useful for the story? That kind of stuff. And so I do a lot of revisions in that way. I often will write in a different device and then
Hmm.
move it into the actual place where I want the story to be. I use Scrivener, so I will
Hmm.
move it into Scrivener, and then when it's in Scrivener, that's when I rewrite it. So I write it often in a different form. I'm like, okay, and I usually I write with an electronic keyboard. I don't know if you know these Alpha Smarts. They're like these really
Mm.
old ink screen keyboard type things that only have
Okay.
like one or two lines at a time. There's no internet, nothing, no backlight. So I write with that usually. I draft there because I don't want any distractions.
Oh, nice.
Mm.
Very
Yeah, but
cool.
then I move it to the computer and then I'm like, okay, now what do then I edit
Yeah.
that. That's often how yeah. So I do that a bit. I mean, minus the time that the editors give me notes, but that's usually what my
Right.
process looks like.
Very
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Scrivener? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now is the time you have completed the interview portion of
Oh,
the Black Geek Energy episode that you have committed yourself to being on. Okay, now is the time where it's almost at the end. We are going to ask you 17 questions. These
holy.
questions are quick fire, so you
Okay.
don't have to answer them all the way, but we would like for the full answer, if you know.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
we are going to ask you these 17 questions, and they are based on previous shows. They are based on, the things you said today, and they are based on, some other things that we want to know. So yeah,
Okay.
Mhm.
uh, let's start. Number one, what superpower would you have if you could have a superpower?
Teleportation.
Hmm.
Mm.
You could
Nice.
always go to haunted castles in
You can go
Wales.
anywhere. Exactly. Exactly. And travel is not it's not
Yeah,
cheap, so.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not.
absolutely.
Um, who was right? Professor X or Magneto?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I don't know who's right. Can I say both? I would go with Professor X in the sense of like I would make that choice, but honestly, I think Magneto is probably would have been a man for our times.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
I'm with you there. I'm
yeah.
Team Magneto.
Okay. Who is your favorite Black playable character in video games?
Ooh, what video game is this? I actually don't play that many video games though.
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah,
okay.
in the last 5 years I played just three, um, and I don't think they have black playable characters, and that's a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing.
But I have not played one except for a character I had to design in um what's the word? One of It's one of the D&D games, the where you build the world and you build a character, and I had to
Oh,
design one myself. Yeah, that's the last black
Baldur's
playable
Gate.
character. Sorry, no, it's the Wild. Is it Wild? The it has the logo is like three or something. I can't remember. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
Baldur's
it.
Gate 3, right?
Is it? No, I
Yeah,
don't
where
think
you
so.
can, it came out in 2023 in August.
Oh no, that's definitely
man.
too recent.
Too recent. Not
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, but I had it was one of those where you make like a druid character or a bear or
Mm,
mm,
dwarf. Yeah, and I just I created one. Of course, I created a black character, which I usually always do. So that's the last
same.
time. But so not existing playable one at least.
okay,
Cool.
okay, okay. So your favorite black character was yourself.
Yes, correct.
um, let me see. Uh-oh, something's happening with uh
Wait,
my
your video?
my
Hmm.
video. Let me change it. Okay, cool. Let me see what next. Now, this is a good one. The Storm and Black Panther relationship. Are you here for it or no?
I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it.
Right. No
Mm,
explanation necessary.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think it's one of those that just makes sense. I think it just
Hmm.
makes sense.
okay.
Like you said, no explanations necessary. It was just one of those things I saw. I was like, yeah, that's right. And
Yep.
and yeah, I dig it. I dig it.
Well, until Wakanda gets flooded, I guess is right.
That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Okay.
Jared, don't get me started.
So what would you rather be, a werewolf or a vampire?
Vampire mostly. I mean, I don't really dig the immortality part, actually. I would rather like to die. I
Mm.
would really like to die, actually. At the end
One
of my
day.
lifespan, one day, yeah. So the idea of stretching on forever, I don't really dig it. But I also don't really dig the metamorphosis. I guess it's painful. The
Mm.
transformation is painful.
Mm.
Mm.
You buy new clothes every full moon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like too many ripped clothing, pieces of clothing. Show it, waking up in strange places. I don't want any of
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
vampire.
What's your favorite, Star Trek or Star Wars?
It's Star Trek Lower Decks.
Oh,
Mm.
okay.
I love the
Yeah,
Lower Decks.
yeah, Lower Decks actually. It's not any of the other. If it's Star Wars, I would say Andor clearly because I've already said that. Star
Mhm.
Trek though, it's Lower Decks. I don't know. It just manages to be, and maybe this is me moving toward the okay. I get all the big stuff happening over there, but I want the smaller thing happening all the
Yeah.
way over here.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Lower Decks is really that for Star Trek, in my opinion, at least. I like that it's an animation too.
Okay.
It gives them room to do so many, funny, exciting things. It's actually funny, not just fun.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Lower Decks it is for me.
Okay. 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 What's a better TV show, Fresh Prince or Martin?
Ooh, okay, that's a good one. I think maybe so. This is how I think of both. I think of Martin as the adult show and Fresh Prince as the family show.
Mm,
Hmm.
So I would go with Fresh Prince because I can watch it with my family, with kids.
Yeah.
Martin, a bit more risk, and I liked it. I enjoyed it too. At least when it was on or when I was watching reruns. But um, maybe Fresh Prince just because it does, it's a family show, and I would
mm.
always take the family show. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Who is your favorite rapper who turned into an actor?
Hmm. Favorite. So do they have to be my favorite in terms of the acting or the music?
In terms of the acting, they have to be your favorite.
Hmm. Favorite that turned into. Oh, that's a good one. I haven't thought about this. I think the person that's coming to my mind actually is Will Smith.
Mhm.
Even if I
That's a
do
great
not,
one.
yeah, I do not actually like his. I wouldn't say I particularly like his music. Like I don't go out and be like, give me some Will Smith music or whatever. But I have actually thought that his acting has been, for a long time, he was very much in his element and on his game. And he really played his parts well. I could pinpoint so many films, I Am Legend, or the
hmm
one with the concussion, or like there was always something I could be like, oh, he's doing this, or the
hmm
Pursuit of Happiness, or Hitch, or there's always something.
Mhm.
So I think in that era, right, 2010s or like 2000s, 2010s thereabouts, he was really doing his work, and I kind of respect that.
Okay.
It's not easy to be like a black man in Hollywood and belong in a game as
hmm
various leads in many films like that. And he's still like a decent musician. He's not even like
Yeah,
he like in the time he was making music as his primary thing, he was actually one of the people who you'd be like, oh, listen to Will Smith's new jam. So Will
yeah.
Smith,
No.
He dropped the album not too long ago.
yeah, that's I heard, yeah.
Mm.
All right, now I gotta do some explaining for this one. I just
Okay.
started playing the Marvel Multiverse tabletop role playing game. My first game was last night.
Oh,
So there are three people who are actually from the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. And I am just a lowly mutant here on Earth who's trying to become a superhero so that he can get money after college. So I know that I want some conflict between me and the three. And I just don't know where to really
mm,
begin. So, any tips on where to begin?
mm.
And one of the intergalactic people, she is actually half mutant, no, she's Krakoan and she's from the Empire. She has
Okay,
both in her bloodline. So I'm thinking
okay.
if I could ask you for some tips on how can I introduce some conflict for my character.
Well, I do have some questions if that's okay. The first one is the Intergalactic Empire folks. Are they in the Intergalactic Empire, and the other person on Earth is on Earth?
Yes,
They're like,
so they came to
okay, they
Earth
came.
for some
Oh,
type of mission or something.
okay, okay, great. Well, I mean, I think the conflict is straightforward for the person already on Earth. They have a goal, and the goal is get money.
hmm
Very simple goal. Is it get money after college or
Yes.
to pay for college?
No, after college.
I mean, it could be both because like get money after college to pay student loans or whatever.
Yeah.
hmm
And so that's a very concrete goal. It's like I need to get money to say, let's say it's pay off student loans, right? Because that seems very relatable. Um, and I'm a mutant, and it could be anything. Maybe you take on small time superhero work, right? And then you could just have these intergalactic empire people on their own mission, completely away from this person,
Hmm.
show up to get in the way of those plans.
Yeah.
Um, in any way, it could be, if I'm a small time super mutant, if I'm a small time mutant, I want to be a superhero. Maybe the job I'm doing is some sort of, I don't know, public construction. It could be anything. But I'm trying to like get up there and, show my, be recognized by my superior or by the
Hmm.
public to be like, oh, that guy is good. Let's make him a superhero. And then you have these three people show up and basically rain on my parade in some way. That would
Okay.
that could be that could be a that would be my villain origin story. I mean, so like I would have it out for them if they killed my dream at that moment. Maybe I never get the money to pay off my student loans ever. Maybe I'm drowning in debt. Maybe I become a
Okay.
house. I could completely see that becoming like, oh, these people need to pay for ruining my life type situation.
Yes.
It's a very easy one. Sorry, I say easy, but like it's one that I could easily see a line being drawn between I'm going to come after these three superheroes um, as as a sort of their if I'm going to ruin their situation. It's a very
Okay.
human
Nice.
human human tendency, I think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I will incorporate that into my character.
I mean, this tells me, by the way, I mean, I know it makes you a villain of some sort, by the way.
Well, okay,
As you can tell.
so we're on the same team, so I'm not trying to be a villain too much,
Oh,
but
exactly. So maybe morally great, more like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, he's
Mm,
definitely
yeah.
morally great.
Okay, great. That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Okay. Aliens come to Earth and it's their no, and it's your job to make them love movies. What
Ooh.
movie do you make them watch?
Ooh, wow. Um, that's a good question. That's a good question. That's an excellent question. Um, so I will make them watch a movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I don't like it, but I think the aliens will.
Okay.
That movie is Love Actually.
Ah!
Mm, mm.
I don't think like it's not a movie I would like recommend, but I think it's exactly the kind of movie that demonstrates like the parts of humanity that aliens would dig.
Okay,
I
okay.
think
Okay.
I think I think it demonstrates like and it demonstrates them very much on the surface too. So it's like, here,
Hmm.
look at all the beautiful things we can be even when we're at our worst, sort
Mm-hmm.
of.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what Love Actually is trying to do. I mean, I don't think it succeeds, but I think they do know
Wait,
that.
I don't think it succeeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
What are some of the TV shows that you let your child watch?
Okay, let's see. What are these ones? There's one called I mean, there's the one that pretty much a lot of parents know now. It's an Australian show called Bluey.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
Everyone
so
loves that
Blue,
show.
yeah, I know. Even because it's not, I don't think like it's for kids, but I think as an adult you could watch it. It's
Yeah.
very
Hmm.
good narratively, I think. So he watches Bluey, he watches he watches Peppa Pig a lot, because he has cousins in the UK who we visit and
Hmm.
are always watching Peppa Pig, and now he watches Peppa Pig. So that's another one. Uh, the third is an Irish show called Puffin Rock.
Okay.
It's about these birds who live like on this island. He likes it because I don't know why he likes it. I mean, he likes them. And the last one is a TV show called Simon, which is
Mm.
about two brothers who are really rabbits, but
Hmm.
they're two brothers who sort of get up to all sort of mischievous stuff. He really likes that one too. So yeah, Simon,
Cool.
Bluey, Puffin Rock, Peppa Pig.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, we were talking about how all the good TV shows that we used to watch are no more.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Many of them are
uh,
gone, and I try to find them on like YouTube or something.
yeah.
But yeah, it's quite hard. Yeah.
Okay. What is the best book to read for a first time reader?
Wow. It's a tough one. First time reader of fiction or first time reader of books?
Mm, you tell me.
Oh, first time reader. So let's set some parameters. Let's say this is someone who's interested in getting into reading,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
novels. Um, ooh, that's a good one. I will say I will say if it's a young person and they're starting their reading journey, I would say middle grade novels
Mm,
Mm.
of the kind that, and in fact, I will say the person I think who writes the best kind. I say kind because all his novels are like this, um, but also because they have this very strong voicey elements where that they're
Hmm.
very interesting to read as well as
Hmm.
like experience. It's Kwame Mbalia.
mm,
Um, he writes. He's a black author of like young adult
Hmm.
novels. And pretty much any one of his novels is like would be a good entry point if I like was a
okay.
like I think of me as like a young black man wanting to like get into novels that have like young black boys as the central protagonists getting up to any
Hmm.
sort of adventures. Kwame Mbalia is like where I would definitely give my kid a Kwame Mbalia novel to start getting into novels for like young readers.
Mm.
So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, his first book is called something like Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the World or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's all about like having these powers, deities, superhero stuff. It's very interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What is your favorite adult cartoon?
Cartoon or just like animations in general?
Yeah, just animation.
Okay, animations in general. You know, I would say what has now become my favorite is something I watched very recently, actually. I've not I wouldn't have really said that I have a long running cartoon or animation thing that I've been watching for a long time.
Mhm.
But recently I watched a TV show called Scavenger's Reign,
Ah,
Ooh.
okay.
and I think for a long time that's going to be kind of what I'm holding a lot of stuff next to. It's
Hmm.
Mm,
weird, strange, excellent storytelling.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's like for adults too. Like it's a mature work, but it's really just about humans who are going off on an expedition, but something
yeah.
happens to their spaceship, and the mission sort of fails, and they crash land on this alien planet, and then everything from there. And it's not alien planet in the way we think of it in terms of like, oh, predator or alien. No,
Hmm.
it's like stuff
Alien.
happens. Yeah, stuff happens is all I can describe it as, but
Yeah.
not all the stuff is what, in fact, almost none of what happens is what you expect to happen.
No, no.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, Scavenger's Reign is what I'm holding a lot of stuff up to these days. So I would say that's my favorite as of this time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should really watch the um cartoon by that same studio called Common Side Effects.
I have watched Common Side
Oh,
Effects as
okay.
well, and I watched it because of Scavenger's Reign, same
Mm,
studio. Yeah,
Same.
it's Common Side Effects is excellent. I
yeah.
enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
It's a ugly, ugly animation,
Uh, it
but
is
it's very
ugly.
good.
Yeah. Honestly, it is ugly. Yeah, yeah. But it's so real, so visceral. So I don't know. For an animation, it packs a punch. So
yeah.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Who is your favorite Disney villain?
Ursula.
Hmm.
That's a good one. Okay.
Ursula because she's a vibe.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who is your favorite Black superhero besides T'Challa?
Besides T'Challa, of course. um, I think for a while, it was, and I say, and it's probably going to be Marvel because I got a lot of Marvel stuff when I was growing up, mostly because that was the stuff that was available in these secondhand trade places, the
Hmm.
flea market places, and then I could trade with people. And I ended up liking War Machine a lot.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
as a kid, of course, having like no idea what I mean, literally those words meant or what War Machine
Hmm.
signified. Like in the larger, scheme of things, I was like, oh, this guy's so cool. Of course I can. But then later I was like, wait, what is it, like U.S. Army? Or I was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So now it is actually being more of the Falcon at least, which is not
Okay.
necessarily that much different from War Machine, but there's that element of like him trying to revisit the basis, of like his existence as the Falcon, a Falcon, and now as we're seeing as like the Captain America that shows up after Rogers. So right now
Hmm.
I'd say that Falcon slash Captain America is like
Okay. Okay. Um, who is your favorite Black character that isn't Black? And like some
ooh,
of the things that we said was like lion, not lion, but Panthro,
Panther.
from Thundercats. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are all black. So, who is your
So,
favorite character?
so favorite black character that's not black.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're just not portrayed as a black person, but they are very black coded.
Coded. Okay, so black
Hmm.
coded. Oof. And this is in what? In
Anything. Hmm.
anything. Oh, this is a good one. Can I think of any like the show I'm thinking of is Atlanta because
Mm.
there were many characters there that I was like, I could immediately think, wait, this person sounds black to me, even if they're not played by a black person. But now
Hmm.
I can't actually pinpoint. I can't pinpoint the exact character. I know the show that gave me the most vibes in that way was Atlanta. Um,
Mm.
I pretty much saw pretty much every episode in that season, but I can't be specific.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can't be
Okay.
specific. Or at least that's the one that's coming to my brain right now. I don't know if I've told you this, but it's like 10:30 p.m.
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
yeah.
one more
Yeah,
question.
so
That
I'm like, yeah, but anyway, some of the characters in Atlanta.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Final question, because we gotta let him go. Um, and this is a popular question.
Mm.
Whose side are you on? Kendrick or Drake?
Doesn't that answer itself by now? I feel like that answers. I mean, the answer I gave back then when I was asked was clearly um, was clearly Kendrick Lamar. But even then, I hadn't even moved to Canada. Also,
Mhm.
and Canadians don't like Drake. Anyway, like Canadians,
Wow.
yeah, actively don't dislike Drake. They think he like doesn't. Uh, I don't. There's a whole baggage around like Canadians and Canadian artists that like move to the U.S. And then there's also specific
Mm.
baggage about like Canadian artists from Toronto who, then who like become Torontonian first and then become American after. So
Mm.
there's a whole baggage there. But Drake hits like all the bingo squares for why people don't like. So a lot of Canadians don't like Drake, and that was even before I moved there. But I just generally I don't I don't get his music. I don't
Yeah.
get it. Kendrick
Yeah.
Lamar's music, I completely understand because I grew up on hip hop. I grew up on like, so I was like, I can see the lineage. I get it. Um, that I was like, this whole thing, though, I don't know what this is. And so it has always been Kendrick Lamar for me, not
Yeah.
necessarily because I'm like a Kendrick Lamar fan, but it's just like
Mhm.
I understand his music. I see the roots, I see the lines, I see where he's drawing from. West Coast, I get it. This other guy though, I'm not sure what this chameleon thing he has going on is.
Mhm. He
Um,
does kind of like
yeah,
blend in wherever he is, you
yeah,
know?
I'm not sure what it was. My wife loves listened to Drake for a long time, at least when we're younger. But yeah, long story short, clearly, obviously, Kendrick.
All right, guys,
Nice.
that is the end of our show. You can email all your questions to blackgeekenergy@gmail.com. You can follow us on Spill, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Threads at Black Geek Energy. And we can also are on Twitter at BG_pod. And did you know, Demarcus, that we have a Patreon? It's only
I
$3 a
knew we had a
month.
Patreon. Did you know it was only 3,000 a month? 10 cents a
Yeah,
day?
yeah, I just said, okay, well,
Yeah, yeah,
you
10 cents a
added
day. Yeah.
10 cents a day. So, okay,
You know,
okay.
you switch to from a large coffee to a medium, and that's our Patreon. You get to hear all of the, more in-depth conversations. You get to hear
Mm,
some of our D&D games as we
mm,
play them. A lot of fun stuff is on there.
Yeah,
Check it out.
yeah.
mm.
Suyi, we want to thank you for coming
Mhm.
on our little small show.
Oh,
We want to like your repertoire of books and what you do for the culture and how you represent your African heritage. It all it's all outstanding what you are doing
Hmm.
for like literary media, and you are really somebody that needs to be watched. And I love the fact that you're a professor, because the way you talk today, I know that you are putting in a lot of gems that these young Gen Z whippersnappers won't find on the TikTok. So, so thank you, thank you, thank you for everything. Thank you for coming on this show. We really enjoyed you. And yeah, that is it on
Thank
today's
you.
episode of Black Geek Energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for coming. It's been great.
Love it. Loved it. Thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed my time.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's
Absolutely.
all. We'll see you next week.
BGE out.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming. I'm sorry it
Thank you
went
so
over
much. Yeah.
long.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not actually like in a hurry. I'm just, but I mean, clearly I have been enjoying any minute. I didn't even know it was that late. So,
Yes, I didn't notice either. I didn't
yeah.
notice
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, it started at 8:30 here. So,
Hmm.
it's already like dark outside and stuff, but yeah, this has been excellent. Thank you for inviting me. Mostly I like always love to like go on, black podcasts, black nerd podcasts, because like I barely get the opportunity to do as many. And I want
Yeah.
to like talk to other people,
Yeah, yeah.
who are not just doing the work, because you were talking about this, Jared, about like the work I'm doing, but I also see the work that folks like you, Jared, and DeMarcus are doing,
Hmm.
and like without that work, right? There's nobody on the other side I feel like I'm talking to, or like I feel like is receiving my work there. So like I love that this podcast exists. I love that
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
you folks have all
you.
these
Thank you.
channels. Yeah, yeah. I'm really happy to have been like, I'm happy that you reached out, because you folks reached out, right? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I'm really glad that you did. So this is actually, this is the only podcast I'm doing, I think, for this
Oh.
book, because yeah, because I didn't want to do as much, because I was like away. So I told them I
Hmm.
wasn't going to be around. But when you emailed, well, when you messaged, I was like, no, I will do that one.
Yeah.
That one I will do.
That's
Oh,
great.
Yeah. So.
We appreciate it so much, man.
Absolutely, yeah. I had
thank
I had
you.
excellent time. Yeah, this is great. Thank
Well,
you very
thank
much.
you. And you were wonderful. And you can come back anytime you want for some
Definitely,
Hmm.
another book.
definitely,
Oh, and can we use you as like a profession? Because you're a professional, you're a college educator. So we may bring you back in as a professional
absolutely,
literary expert, a talking head on
Hmm.
CNN or something like that. So yes.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be down for that. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank
this
you.
is amazing. All right. So now me and DeMarcus got to do the Patreon. So
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
just thank
We'll
you,
let you
and
go.
we'll let you
Sure.
go.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of Patreon. I know you must be tired. It's been 2 hours, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
it's the
luck with it.
job.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
job. But thank
Fair
you
enough.
again and enjoy the
Sure.
haunted house.
Thank you. I will.